Today on Locked On Rockies, where do we go from here? What moves should be made? To be totally honest, I don't really know.
You are Locked On Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rock on Rockies fans, welcome into the Locked On Rockies podcast for today, the 16th day of May in the year 2025. I'm your host of the Locked On Rockies podcast, Paul Holden, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. If your team is the Colorado Rockies, guess what? You're in the right spot, because that's what we do around here each and every day, free and streaming on your favorite streaming services and bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. Thank you again so much for making us your first listen of the day. Today, we're going to just kind of take a look at just give you my thoughts on what I think the areas, mostly area though, of improvement the Rockies need to focus on the most. And I'm talking about not just from thinking about it more. I'm talking about it needs to become a fundamental core part of the philosophy of the Colorado Rockies. We got some great references to read. Bill Schmidt made some comments for the first time since the change. We're going to read some of those. And of course, we'll take a look at the Diamondbacks up ahead next. But before we dive into everything, just letting you know that today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. So, my main thing that I we had the off day yesterday, and I'm watching the Nuggets now. By the way, the Denver Nuggets have the same amount of wins in the playoffs that the Colorado Rockies now have in the entire regular season so far, which is 7. And I'm kind of like thinking, I'm kind of taking some time where I'm thinking about putting the pod. I'm like, all right, what is going to be what will be the big difference maker? What's the area that the Rockies really need to focus on first, the most? And you can point to a lot of things. And I think a lot of you right away will go, the pitching. I want to read a little bit from the Rockies versus Connor mailbag here. Substack. This is from Rebuilding the Rockies Part 1. And again, this, if you are a fan that would love to really dive into the numbers, really dive into this stuff, I highly, highly, highly suggest that you subscribe to this newsletter and read this, because there's going to be more here, because there's a lot. What Connor does is really dives into this stuff, backs it up with analytics, backs it up with Rockies history. There's a lot in this piece that I'm not going to have time to get to, because it does a really good job of highlighting what's the contract situations going on. Let me just read here about where you can rebuild the Rockies here, and it's in the pitching paragraph. We'll start with pitching only because I think it's easier. Pitching easier? Yeah. Here's the thing. The Rockies media has failed you and failed itself. There are countless jokes about the Rockies pitching, but when it's all said and done, when you park adjust the numbers and analyze it year by year, the Rockies have had more good pitching staffs than offensive lineups. They've had an ERA plus above 112 times in their history. 1/3 of their years they've fought to a better than average pitching staff. They've done it multiple ways too. Sinker ballers like Aaron Cook, high velocity, low control guys like Ubaldo, limited contact guys like Jorge De La Rosa and Tyler Anderson. All of this leads to a pretty stable and simple conclusion. The Rockies do not need to do anything special to make a good pitching staff. They just need to have good pitchers and invest in the ways that continues to make pitchers good. There's a whole thread that here's what the thread that they point about from Mario. This is from Baseball Prospectus contributor Mario Genzor here. The one thing about pitching at altitude is there's no one trick doctors hate to solve the riddle outside of good communication, managing expectations, and preparing guys physically. Fixating on a specific type of pitcher or strategy is foolish for many reasons. First, you shrink the width of the talent pool you're choosing from, which is a fatal mistake that's doomed the Rockies before. Second, your entire staff becomes predictable and easy to prepare for. Third, no approach is flawless. Sinker ballers, for instance, get paper cut to death at altitude. There are certainly archetypes and general pitcher and movement profiles that fit 5280 better than others, but the real answer to solving the puzzle is acquiring, developing, and preparing high-end talent, period. That, and treating Coors Field as your advantage rather than your doom. I mean, that's it, folks. Because again, we can sit here and say pitching. The biggest issue, and this is the main focus, the biggest goal, the foundational piece of the Colorado Rockies, and going forward, it should be offense. The Rockies should be one of the teams most heavily invested in their offense. I'm talking analytics. I'm talking players. I'm talking approach. The Rockies should constantly be at the front edge when it comes to offense. They need to be a team that can go back and forth. Why are these other teams so successful? Well, they have offenses that can actually do things. It's not core. It's not just Coors. It's not just the pitching staff. While I really believe in what Mario adds in this piece of like, you say, oh, these pitchers have to work. Oh, let's get a bunch of pitchers all the same. And that's happening right now. There's no difference really between any starter on the Rockies rotation right now. Very similar profiles, very similar results, not getting strikeouts. And they've built that up to where it's like, no, I'm actually fine with the Rockies not needing to be the best pitching staff in baseball. They just need to be good enough. And I want to provide prime examples of that. Prime examples of why you need a good pitching staff. You need pitchers, but it doesn't need to be, oh my God, it's the Rockies. We have to keep doing pitching. The only answer to fix the Rockies' problem is pitching. No, the offense is so far behind and so much more broken than the pitching staffs are. I want to go to the Rockies here in 2017. Who led the way here? It was the offense. And the defense was good, mind you. But when we're just talking about and this is, we haven't seen this level of pitching in a long time from Rockies pitchers, but 3.5 WAR season for Marquez, Kyle Freeland 3.4, Tyler Chatwood 2.3, Antonio Sensatella 2.2, and John Gray at 3.2, and Jeff Hoffman at 0.4. Mixed in with Holland, Oberg, McGee, Ottavino, and Dunn in the bullpen, and Tyler Anderson getting you starts. The Rockies had plenty of possibilities here, plenty of good options when it came to arms there in that playoff team. But let me go through and read you some offensive numbers here for the Rockies and players on this team. Mark Reynolds for the Rockies had 30 home runs that year. Trevor Story, 24. Nolan Arenado, 37. Charlie Blackmon, 37. Even Cargo hitting 14 bombs. In that same season, Charlie Blackmon, 14 triples, 35 doubles, 213 hits. You just look at this Rockies offense, and it was incredible. Outside of the fact that the Rockies had to rely on Tony Walters and the end of Carlos Gonzalez's Rockies time and the end of his career, the Rockies had 3 All-Stars that year, 2 guys that finished in the top 5 for MVP voting, Arenado winning the Gold Glove and the Silver Slugger. That's the recipe to success. You have 3 guys in the lineup that just do damage, that make your offense such a pain that keeps you in there. It's the combo, right? Oh, you had the great. Of course, the Rockies had one of their better seasons. It's the great combo of, well, there's the good pitching and there's the offense. But I firmly believe it was the offense that led the way there. The reason why they were able to stay in ball games there. And it's just amazing to look at some of these stat lines here. Nolan Arenado, 6.6 WAR that season, 43 doubles, and here's the huge kicker right here, especially when you're thinking about it right now with the Rockies offense. 106 strikeouts. 106 strikeouts for the entire season for Nolan Arenado there. Trevor Story striking out 191 times and Mark Reynolds 175. But you look at these other guys, DJ LeMahieu only struck out 90 times in that season. Gerardo Parra only struck out 67 times. Whatever happened when it came to not only just the shift in talent, but getting these guys ready to go and getting these guys ready to handle MLB talent, I don't know what happened. But you go to 2018 again, and surprisingly enough, it was Kyle Freeland leading the way with the most WAR on the season, on the team that season at 7.8. But I kind of wanted to point this out here. We're talking about how in 17 the Rockies pitching staff across the board pretty good. Not so much in the follow-up year in 2018 there. Obviously, Kyle Freeland leads the way, and Herman Marquez, another strong season. And then Tyler Anderson, John Gray, Chad Bettis, Antonio Senzatella, kind of like good to middling. Tyler Anderson, 2.5, but Chad Bettis and John Gray, Chad Bettis, and Antonio Senzatella, not necessarily dominant, blow you away, but good enough. Good enough. Not negative WAR. Not right at zero WAR. Brian Shaw and Jake McGee were that year from the bullpen. But let's go back and let's go rewind the clock here to the offense. Why were the Rockies so successful? Well, it's because they had, again, their core guys doing damage in terms of offensive production. And this comes at a big step back from Charlie Blackmon between the 2 years. But still, another season with 3 all-stars. Multiple 30 home run guys, multiple guys with 20 home runs, multiple guys with high batting average, multiple guys able to contribute on offense. That was the core reason why the Rockies were able to get to the playoffs. That's the core reason why the Rockies were able to be successful. Have the pitching just be good. Good starters, quality starters that have a difference in mixes. I cannot wait for the day that the Rockies, where when you have a different pitcher come up, it's going to be different strengths. Okay, here's the guy that can strike people out. Here's the guy that's going to get the weak contact. Here's the next guy that's going to strike people out, but also get weak contact. Instead, they're so stale. I really don't think that it takes much for people to plan to approach for the Rockies pitching staff right now, because they're just looking at things and saying, well, they're all kind of similar. They all kind of do the same thing. We got to watch out for Dollander. He's got the strikeout, but it's a lot of try to get the weak contact, try to get the ground balls, and it's not working. They're hitting the hell out of the ball. But basically, for me, it comes back down to offense is so important for the Rockies. It's just in general. I'm very much an offensive mindset guy here. And I want to read a little bit more from Connor's piece here about the Rockies hitting philosophy and just kind of hit with some of the actual stats and some of the numbers that the Rockies are going through and dealing with right now. Because I think when you go through some of this stuff and you really think about how bad the offense has not only been this year, but has been for years, in the midst of when we're supposed to be developing players into great talent, into great offensive talent, into getting us back to the playoffs, it just hasn't happened. And I have no confidence in it happening anytime soon. If I'm being honest, I mean, I hate to say it, but it is the case. My doubts in the Rockies developing the players into what they want to see is very high. All right. Let's take a quick break, and then we'll be rocking and rolling to segment number 2 of today's episode. Before we do that, though, got to tell you about the folks that help make this show possible, and that includes Gametime. Have you ever decided at the last minute to head to the ball game with friends and family? Well, maybe it's game day, and you suddenly realize you want to be in the stands. That's exactly where Gametime comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last-minute tickets without the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merch, or even invite a bigger group to come with you. Gametime makes it possible. Gametime makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app actually go down the closer you get to first pitch, and they've got incredible last-minute deals, clear seat views, and a lowest price guarantee that takes the worry out of buying. Gametime has gotten me to the All-Star game, to concerts, to more baseball games, to all sorts of stuff, because it's so easy to use, and I know I'm getting a great deal. Gametime is the official ticketing partner of Locked On MLB, making it easier to browse the app for an exciting upcoming Major League Baseball game. Hey, maybe you're looking for tickets to Rockies D-backs in the deserts. You can go check it out for yourself. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Locked On Rockies here, back at you for segment number 2 of today's episode of the show. Rocking and rolling here through. Thank you so much for making this your first listen of the day. We go back to rebuilding the Rockies part 1 from the Connor versus Rockies Substack. And I just want to read from this on the hitting portion, because I think this will help back up what I'm saying is the hitting is the most broken part of the Rockies. The offensive approach, the offensive philosophy, the offensive development, everything that has to do with hitting right now is completely broken for the Colorado Rockies. And here's what Connor says. The Rockies suck ass at developing a hitter. Again, the media has failed us in explaining this, but it is never more apparent now than with the Rockies at 7-34 and with a limited amount of true hitting prospects. There's a fundamental misunderstanding of, and this was, by the way, came out earlier in the week, so this was before the sweep of the Rangers gave. There is a fundamental misunderstanding of what makes a good hitter, both with respect to where the Rockies play their home games and just in general. The club is fraught with expired practices and mindsets, but they also just do not comprehend the ballpark they play in. It has led to this team's downfall on more than one occasion. If there is a place that the Rockies have not only strayed from actual successful team building, but actively built barriers to prevent improvement, it is in their hitting philosophy. This is not just in the major leagues, where the team ranks last in OPS, but it is in the draft and development portion of the club structure as well. Coors Field is a haven for run scoring. The high altitude and wide gaps of the outfield make for consistent entertainment, but despite that, the Rockies never seem to hit well on the road. Many arguments have been made for that, including the changes to the pitch movement after a homestand are difficult to understand, so the club can't adjust. But Connor would argue another possibilities. The Rockies have never actually had a good lineup. They've had some good hitters, great ones, and Hall of Fame ones even. These hitters also had home road splits to their names that would make you think they were better at home. That is all true. But the Rockies play the most games at home than any other park, so they should hit better there. And these guys are still pretty good on the road. The guys now they have now aren't. A Rockies hitting philosophy should focus simply on one thing: 0 strikeouts. The 3 true outcomes model works for most of baseball, and the Rockies can use it to an extent. But the true advantage of Coors Field is that getting on base is the most dangerous thing you can do. And if you make contact here, you are more likely to get on base than anywhere else. You should do your best to employ 9 hitters that strike out at a lower rate than anyone else in the league, have high BABIP, high contact, speedy guys, and low BABIP, high power, high walk guys. Those are the 2 types of batters that should exist in the Rockies organization. The Rockies play in the most unique run-scoring environment in the sport, and it is a pretty good argument to make that they are ashamed of that fact and look to build a team that can't hit to avoid it. Stop that. Lean into making teams regret coming to Denver. Ruin every pitcher that wants a Cy Young. It's time to line 6 Luis Reyes types hitters in the majority of your lineup and 3 Kyle Schwarbers to bring them home or walk them forward to base. You are not here to play nice and make friends. You are here to have 20 hits fall into the grass just outside the infield and have one guy hit a gigantic home run to cap it all off. The Rockies currently lead Major League Baseball in strikeouts. Last year, they were second in strikeouts. The year before that, they were third. If you go back to a time they were good, say 2018, they were still below league average in strikeouts. The league is striking out more than ever, but the Rockies still pace them. Why? Is this approach causing them to struggle on the road? Is it that Coors Field is difficult for hitters to adjust to have the Rockies been running mediocre, or have the Rockies been running mediocre lineups for over a decade, and the road is just where this shows up? It is. I can't agree with this enough. I really can't. That is the definition of how you can weaponize Coors Field. Chip away. Guys that get on base, boom, the big bat brings them in. Let's take a look again. Who is the greatest Rocky of all time? Who is the greatest Rocky of all time? Now, you might have different answers for this, but for me, and it might change, but for me, it's Todd Helton. Todd Helton is the greatest Rocky of all time. Shocker, I know. But what did Todd Helton do? What was Todd Helton so successful at doing? He drew walks, he didn't strike out, and he hit doubles. Of course, he had the home runs and other stuff, but he got on base and he drove runners in. He was the exact blueprint for what the Rockies should be looking for. That is the ultimate Coors Field weapon right there. Same with a guy that also played third base not too long ago for the Colorado Rockies. If you can get on base, you put the pressure on. We have seen what happens to other teams when the pressure starts mounting at Coors Field. When the pressure starts mounting in an environment that teams used to be uncomfortable for. Teams aren't afraid to go to Coors anymore because they know the team that they're matching up with for the past 3 seasons has been an 100-loss team. So that intimidation is gone. There's no intimidation of playing at Coors right now. Who the hell cares about what altitude is? Who the hell cares about what's going on, about the toughness of playing at Coors Field when you know the team over there is striking out 10 plus times a game, and you just go in there, throw fastballs that the team can't hit, and blow them by them, and you're good. A 4-run lead, that's all you need. A 4-run lead used to never be safe at Coors Field. Never. But now it is. I don't care if the Rockies went out and got DeGrom and Scherzer and Verlander all in their primes, right? And I know that those aren't really the best examples for pitching. But you won't change anything with the Rockies. You cannot get back to where the Rockies were even a mediocre team until this offense repairs itself from being a totally anemic. And I agree that it's all bad approach, because it's again, this is what happens. We are at the lowest point we're at now is because, and it goes further back, but okay, 2 seasons ago, you have 100 losses, tough. Take it on the chin, a lot of change. All right, so what do? You didn't do much. Didn't really. You waited and see. You hoped. We got to keep hoping. Keep the hope alive. It's coming. The building, the development. We got it. It's all building. Okay. So then you follow up your 100-loss season with another 100-loss season where you're the second worst team in baseball about striking out, only by a small margin. Well, that's not good. That's not improvement. That's downward trajectory. Even though the record bounced up a couple of games, the Rockies would end up being what, like +2 wins compared in 24 over 23. But now we're here, rock bottom by a long shot, and it with real no change in sight. I don't think that this current organization is going to get the guys on the roster to start hitting the ball very well. I don't really have a lot of faith in the offense turning it around, because again, it's the Rockies are now reaping multiple years of putting their feet down, planting it, and saying, no, we're right. We have the right ideas. We know what's working. We are correct. Rockies brain trust bubble. No, you're wrong. No, you're wrong. I don't care that the rest of the baseball's leaving us behind. You're the wrong ones. We know how to make it work. You remember Rocktober? That's basically what the approach for the Rockies in the front office. This team will never come close to being competitive again until they stop being the worst team in baseball on offense, or one of them. And it's inexcusable. It's one of the biggest mistakes of the Rockies franchise history to allow the offense to get to the state that it is in now. To really, really blow it when it comes to trades and rebuilding and retooling, when it comes to developing and drafting players that are going to fit the profiles and get you where you need to be on offense. But remember, the right people are all in charge. Bill Schmidt makes his first comments after the letting go of, well, I don't know if it's for, talk to Thomas Harding. We'll go in and read that. But like I said, there's so much more in this Substack. There's so much more that you should go read. I don't know if it's actually a Substack newsletter. Might be the best one, but it's the Rockies vs. Connor newsletter. There's so much more in here that just highlights a lot of the other issues for the Rockies. But for me, it does not get any bigger for an issue for the Rockies than their offense. It sucks seeing the state of where the Rockies offense is at. All right, let's hear what Bill Schmidt has to say coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Before we do that, though, got to tell you about the folks that help make this show possible, and that includes FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances. Major momentum shifts and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easier to stay in the game before tip-off and live. With player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays, fans have even more ways than ever to play smart and win big. Maybe we got Game 7. Oh, my goodness, we got Game 7 on Sunday. Thank goodness for 2 days of rest for the Nuggets. Maybe you want to go with Jokic rebounds. Maybe you want to go with Braun threes. Maybe you want to go with some action between the Knicks and the Celtics tonight. Maybe take the Celtics to keep put the pressure on, even without one of their big players. You can turn your $5 bet into $200 in bonus bets if it wins, because if you're new to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets at FanDuel.com. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. This is the Locked On Rockies podcast, free and streaming on your favorite streaming services. Winding things down for today's episode here of Locked On Rockies. And I want to read at least a little bit here from Thomas Harding's Schmidt optimistic despite frustrating start here. Let's see. More up to date, the Rockies would have to sweep the Diamondbacks in a 3-game set starting Friday to reach double figures in wins. This is kind of basically because talking about how he's screaming, Schmidt's frustrated, blah, 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 blah. I always thought we were trailing the Diamondbacks by a year or so, but we're farther than that, Schmidt said, referring to a 2023 assessment. That was before Arizona went to the World Series, while the Rockies nosedived to the first of 2 straight 100-plus loss seasons. Let's see here. On April 17th, the Rockies replaced coach Henley Mullin with Clint Hurdle, who's now Schaefer's bench coach. The recent changes can hardly fix the Rockies. The starting order Wednesday included 6 players who finished the night hitting .216 or worse. .216 or worse. I remind you, the biggest problem with the Colorado Rockies is their offense. Schmidt says, I'd like to think if Tovar was healthy and Estrada, we'd be a different ball club. You watch spring training, Schmidt said. I didn't think we'd be 7 and whatever it is. I kept talking about growth. We know you kept talking about growth there, Bill. The Rockies are perceived as thin and behind the curve structurally. They're maligned for their small research and development departments. They were behind other clubs in adding a second team in Latin America and opening a performance lab, and were one of the 5 latest teams to adopt a pitching machine that allows hitters to face specific pitchers virtually. Like previous GM Jeff Bridich, Schmidt has pushed ownership to beef up the organization in all areas and believes progress is being made. But other teams of similar market size are seeing results from trades of prospects after devoting resources to studying other organizations comprehensively. It all adds up to the Rockies to go away from loyalty to long-time decision makers, but that's no guarantee of success. No, Thomas, I know you have to hit that one there, but that sentence is right here. The main takeaway from this right here, it all adds up to calls for the Rockies to go away from loyalty to longtime decision makers. The longtime decision makers of the Colorado Rockies are not putting this team on a path to success. The longtime philosophies and the people in running the team and the current teams, operations teams, are not putting the Rockies in the best spot. And I just read from that thing how many areas the Rockies have spent years being behind. This team will continue to be not only worse, one of the worst teams in baseball history, one of the worst teams in sports. If you continue down this path, if you don't make any changes, if you continue to put your head in the sand and say what we're doing is working, have hope, have faith, have this, have that. No, there is no more excuses for the Colorado Rockies. There is a desperate call for a serious change, and it starts with the ownership as well. If you're not going to sell the team, Dick Mumford, you need to step back. You need to relinquish the operations of the baseball side and start building a creative team. And Bill Schmidt ain't helping. He's just another yes man right now. A little bit more here from Bill Schmidt. When will the Rockies turn the corner? It's hard to say, but we're continuing to Bill Schmidt said. We like some of our young players. They'll continue to grow and get better. Now we need more, and we'll keep grinding away. I keep believing the process. How many times do we need to hear the same sentence over and over and over and over and over and over again? You're stuck in your old ways. You're behind the times, and you're one of the worst teams, not only in baseball history, but in sports history at this current pace. So continue to tell us that it's all going to work out, that the hope is there, that we just need to play better. Got it. Certainly no big, deep problems to show a rotten core at the inside of this organization. They will continue to do nothing. They will continue to be irrelevant, and they will continue to be an awfully run baseball team if they continue to go at this pace. It's just plain and simple. It does not seem like this really is inspiring all that much willingness to change, because until that team breaks its hyper loyalty to the people that have been showing this team and leading this team in the wrong direction, the Rockies will continue to be not only one of the worst teams in baseball, but one of the worst run teams in all of professional sports. Diamondbacks on the way next on the road for the Rockies here. We'll see what happens. It's not going to be looking good, most likely. Hey, we didn't talk about this. We'll probably talk more about this. Sounds like we might be getting a Palmquist debut this weekend. We got some other stuff coming up. So we'll break it down and react to that after the weekend. But since it was an off day, I kind of just, and I read that stuff. I just wanted to revisit that as I'm just so frustrated by watching the Rockies offense. It is just painful to watch. All right, folks, we're going to wrap things up here for today's show. We'll be back in action next week right here on the Locked On Rockies podcast. Thank you so much for making us your first listen of the day. For your second listen of the day, go check out Locked On MLB, and we got you covered if you need more Colorado sports. Locked On Broncos, Avalanche, Nuggets, Buffs, all free and streaming on your favorite streaming services. Until next time, I'm Paul Holden saying so long from the Locked On Rockies podcast.